at all.
This is in the desert, in the hot sun in the summertime, but this time of the year, absolutely perfect.
Early move here by Paul Healion of the Murphy Gunn Newley M. Donnelly team. Now, that's a team that I haven't heard very much at all about, but as you can see, he's got an advantage of around about 5 minutes. Two riders there trying to go clear. And at the moment, the main field don't really seem all that interested in trying to get across. This is a rider from Agri-Tubel, Romain Fellu. He's joined there, I think he's joined there by Eric Bowman of T-Mobile. Looking across, no reaction, Bob, at all in the main field.
No reaction from the field. They'll wait to the end, to the finale, and try to bring these riders back. And we've had a lot of big field sprints throughout the years in the Tour of Qatar. Can you imagine? It's the 6th edition of this great bike race early in the year. And here's our lone leader from early, and there is the reason he probably won't stay out. That is the head of the field. Tête de la course, that is the Quick Step squad.
Well, a little bit difficult as well there, because those two riders we saw going off the front are halfway across the gap. In fact, they're 4 minutes behind the lone leader and just 3 minutes in front of the main field. But Bob, I think when we look at this man's style, Paul Healion is really suffering. He doesn't look like a man who's got a lot of power compared to these riders here. The two riders, these are the chasers, Bowman and Romain Fellu here. They look fairly well drilled, but still it's a difficult thing to do, to ride across a 5 or 6 minute gap.
5 minutes is not the time. It's better to go right when the breakaway is formed, but that can't always happen. Quick Step, just a regular grind on the front, and that looks like Christian Nies from the Milram squad right on the wheel of the Quick Step rider, chasing this man a little bit up the road. 3:10 still.
Well, he's 3:10 over the two chasers and 5.5 minutes over the front end of the main field. But let's not forget, we're still at only around about 94 kilometers of this race covered, and we're still looking at around about 50 kilometers to go to the finish. Just looking up the road there, they may well be, Bob, about to make the junction. Now, if he's got a good team manager with him, I would have suggested the team manager say sit up and wait, because 3 pairs of legs are better than 1.
Absolutely. Sit up and wait for the pursuers. Here comes a nice little breakaway. It'll be 3 at the front. Let's see what these guys can do to hold off the charge of the peloton on today's stage.
Well, they've got more chance of surviving now. The leading break now made up of Eric Bowman. He's the rider in the pink jersey of T-Mobile. Fellu, the man from Agri-Tubel, and the man who started the breakaway, Paul Healion. There's a number of teams starting to work at the front end of the main field. Obviously, Team Quickstep are doing that for Tom Bonan, but it's nice to see Team Milram are not sitting back. They've sent a couple of riders up to help in the organization of this chase.
One rider no longer in the field, Tom Steels, who went down so heavily in the stage before, breaking his collarbone and out of the Tour of Qatar. What a woolly and wild sprint it was. Graham Brown, not the most popular man in the field.
Well, no. A rather nasty crash as well. Very sad to see Tom Steels going out like that, and I'm sure it's going to take him a little bit of a while to get himself back to the top end of his form. Just looking here at these 3 riders, Bob, the gap is now starting to come down somewhat dramatically. It's hovering around the 1 minute mark, and in fact, if we look at the race there, I think there's a little bit of discontent amongst the riders.
Fellu looks like he's going up the road. Bowman's trying to sit on, and yes, like you said, a little bit of discord in the breakaway, and not knowing exactly what to do, each man. They want to keep working, but not a lot of cooperation at the moment.
This is going to lose them an awful lot of time if they continue not to organize themselves like this, because in the main field behind we can see this organization. We're looking now at 16.5 kilometers to go to the finish, and that's at around about 10 miles.
Here we are back up to our breakaway. Still working pretty well together, but there was some serious hesitation and the workload not being shared equally by all the riders. Bowman trying to sit on there a little bit, it seems like, and then this man struggling, Healion, having a very tough time maintaining the tempo of the riders in the break with him, and that might be it for him.
Well, I think he's suffering there, isn't he? He can't even stay on the wheel, so Healion, I think, may well be a spent man here this afternoon. He will slide back. These 3 leaders still holding on to an advantage of around about 1.5 minutes, but I reckon once the main field starts to dig in, they've got a very good chance of pulling these men back into the fold. That's always a nasty sign too. Once you start to see the cars moving out of the gap, that's an indication that the main field is not far behind.
A little bit of cooperation still. The rider, there's Bowman sitting on the wheel, now only 38 seconds ahead of the charging field.
Well, their advantage now down to just 38 seconds, and this is probably a very good time to remind ourselves that Cyclism Sundays has the biggest races, from the Spring Classics to the Tour de France. And next week it's Paris-Nice, the first big stage race competition of the season. Cyclism Sundays, Sunday at 5 on Versus. Well, that's a nice move there by the Belgian, just trying to get himself off the front, and that, I think, Bob, is finally the end for Healion.
Healion going out the back of the breakaway. He doesn't have to wait very long, however, for the peloton to go steaming past him. And there's the charge of the light brigade just behind the breakaway.
I suppose we could say there's no more gas in Healion. Anyway, it looks like